This is the Tree of Life, Season 30, Chapter 8. In this episode, we will be discussing the two forms by which infinite recursion is terminated by compulsion. In previous episodes, we talked about how under tautological priority, in sequential substitution, the incoming consciousness acts out the impulse for the outgoing consciousness. If that impulse is negated at the conclusion of reverse substitution, then the incoming consciousness can act directly on the outgoing consciousness to compel acquiescence and expression within nonlinearity. This form of compulsion is single compulsion via nonlinearity. In this case, the outgoing consciousness is disconnected from its vessel, its objects of consciousness referential to its self-representation, without being linked to the vessel. In this case, there is no stacking of the incoming and outgoing consciousness. Rather, the outgoing consciousness experiences a distinct linear stream divorced from that experienced within its vessel during the substitution event. In the absence of compulsion, under tautological infinite recursion, pursuant to tautological priority, the time for degeneration of the artifact of sublimation is determined by the affirmational cycle which is negated in the preceding reverse substitution event. Thus, if we are talking about a cycle of 3 days represented by the impulse subject to affirmation, by the incoming consciousness, then the artifact produced by recursion will take 3 days to degenerate upon verbalization. Likewise, longer cycles will take longer to degenerate. The second form of compulsion is hierarchical double compulsion, which involves stacked perceptual experiences. In this case, there are simultaneous interactions between the incoming and outgoing consciousness along two paths. Thus, although the outgoing consciousness exists in the same spatial space in both stacked perceptions, with a nexus between their experiences, they are in fact interacting with two distinct vessels, incoming consciousness, along two distinct paths. Along one path, inconsistent with the prenegation path, the incoming consciousness compels acquiescence upon the vessel. Whereas, along the other path, consistent with the prenegation path, the incoming consciousness merely interacts spatially with the outgoing consciousness. These experiences occur simultaneously, stacked, so to speak. Double compulsion is interesting because it reveals that one of the paths, corresponding to the compulsion, within nonlinearity, is outside consensus, or more accurately represents a distinct consensus from the other. You must imagine that double compulsion involves two conflicting digital structures with reversed priority. The path which emerges from outside consensus is hierarchical, such that the outgoing consciousness is lower in priority. The path which emerges from inside consensus is hierarchical, such that the outgoing consciousness is higher in priority. In this way, the original priority of reverse substitution is preserved for one path, but not for the other. That's the end of the podcast for today.